We are, oh, sorry, I thought we switched. Hello, everyone. We are back for our next presentation, From Play to Placement, Leveraging Esports for Inclusive Talent Acquisition with Manuela Sachse and Jessica Melzer. Manuela and Jessica, you're free to start.
So, hello, my name is Jessica Melzer, and I'm excited to welcome you to this presentation titled From Play to Placement, Leveraging Esports for Inclusive Talent Acquisition. Today I introduce an approach to recruitment, one that moves beyond self-presentation and instead focuses on real observable ability. Our central question is how can we make hiring processes more inclusive, especially for neurodivergent individuals? And what role can digital play environments like eSport play in this transformation? This visual summarizes the core issue in traditional job interviews. They rely heavily on neurotypical modes of communication, like quick thinking, confident eye contact, small talk, and social intuition. But when we apply these standards to everyone, including people who communicate or process information differently, we systematically exclude a huge pool of talent. So let's take a closer look at the core problems with traditional job interviews. The first is most interviews place a heavy emphasis on spontaneous social interaction. That means candidates are expected to answer quickly, maintain steady eye contact, engage in small talk, and read the room in real time. These expectations reflect what's called neurotypical communication patterns. They privilege verbal fluency, intuitive social behavior, and nonverbal performance. That leads us directly to the second point. This format systematically disadvantages specific groups, especially neurodivergent individuals. So, for example, someone with autism or ADHD may find interviews overwhelming due to sensory stimuli, rapid question response expectations, or implicit social norms. So it's not that they lack qualification, they simply process and express information in different ways. And finally, perhaps the most critical issue, traditional interviews create a barrier to professional competencies. They often fail to assess the very skills that matter most of the job, like problem solving, teamwork, resilience, or innovation. Instead, they reward confidence, presentation style, and social charm under pressure. So, none of which are directly indicators for a job performance. So, if we want a fair and effective selection process, we need to question the assumptions built into traditional interviews and consider new, more inclusive methods. To dive a little deeper in my explanation, I outlined the process. Here you can see the personal selection process designed for neurotypical people. So we start on the left side with the job advertisement. The advertisement receives applications from people of every neurotypicality. So I mean neurotypical and neurodivergent people. And we have a neurodiverse applicant pool. The recruiter then compares the skills of the applicants, which you can see on paper, and applicants of all neurotypes are eliminated, and applicants of all neurotypes remain in the pool. Then we come to the neurotypical selection process, which traditionally usually starts with an interview of the applicants. As this interview pays more attention on the aforementioned skills, neurodivergent people who do not have these skills or demonstrate them in a particular way, they are automatically excluded. So the assumption, therefore, is that only or predominantly neurotypical applicants remain in the pool. The final selection is made among neurotypical applicants, and this has a negative impact on the diversity of companies and the potential that neurodivergent people bring to the table. So, yet when recruitment tools assume a one size fits all standard, these individuals are often underestimated or excluded. Um, so, what exactly does neurodivergent mean in academic terms? Chapman defines neurotypicality as what is statistically and culturally considered as a standard. Rutherford expand on this by framing neurodivergence not as a pathology but as a natural variation. So neurodivergence includes people with uh, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, and other cognitive conditions. So, but it's importantly to know it's not a deficit; it's only a difference. And neurodiversity refers to all types of neuro expression. Let's now talk about why we need to fundamentally rethink how we assess candidates and how esports can help us move from this exclusion to inclusion. So the first point here is about social bias in interviews because they exclude valuable neurodivergent candidates. Traditional interviews are shaped by social expectations I listed before, but these expectations reflect neurotypical behavior patterns. As a result, neurodivergent candidates are often excluded not because of a lack of talent, but because of a mismatch between their communication style and the interview format. This creates a invisible filter. Secondly, traditional formats tend to prioritize appearance over actual ability. So we focus on how someone performs socially rather than their underlying competencies. That means candidates who present themselves confidently but don't necessarily perform better on the job may be favored. And we end up selecting good interviewers, not necessarily good employees. And that brings us to the third point. Esports offer a dynamic, observable, and inclusive alternative to a traditional hiring process. In-game based environments, we can observe the candidates' real behaviors, not their scripted answers. And because the environment is digital and rule-based, it levels the playing field for neurodivergent candidates who might otherwise be excluded by social bias. All in all, the heart of the message is digital environment like esports allow us to shift from how you present to what you can actually do. In this slide, we summarize why esport-based assessment offer a more fair and inclusive and scalable solution. So esport-based assessments measures a broad range of relevant competencies. The radar chart shows a sample outcome from such an assessment. Each axis represents a core skill domain, and the shaded area reflects the candidate's performance profile. So we don't just get a single score, we get a multi-dimensional picture of actual behaviors. This allows us to assess candidates based on what they do and not how they speak or present themselves. So by using esport-based formats, we can build a hiring process that are more accurate, more evidence-based, and truly inclusive by the design. But why do these assessments work so well, especially for neurodivergent individuals? The first benefit is the objective and observable skill. This is one of the strongest arguments for esport-based assessments. Unlike injuries, game-based formats make behavior directly observable. In an esports scenario, we can watch how someone works in a team, how they approach complex tasks, or how they adapt to new challenges. These actions are visible, repeatable, and recordable, which makes assessment not just fairer, but also more reliable. We move from interpreting someone's words to evaluating their actual decision and behavior. The second benefit is the stress reduction and the fairness. So, for many neurodivergent candidates, traditional interviews are anxiety inducing, often because of unclear expectations, intense social pressure, or overwhelming sensory input. Digital games create a more structured and familiar environment. So participants know the rules, the goals, and how they are being evaluated. The clarity reduces performance anxiety and levels the playing field. According to studies like Tomacek et al., this effect is especially relevant for candidates on the autism spectrum, who report lower anxiety and higher engagement in task-based digital settings. And the third one, we have support for alternative communication. Not all candidates express themselves best through spoken language or small talk. So, especially in neurodivergent populations, we find diverse communication preferences. Esport assessments support this diversity by offering multimodal interaction, like including text, visual feedback, or strategic decision making. So candidates can contribute through actions, chat, visual decision, or coordination without being forced into a single verbal format. This allows them to showcase their strengths. So our research question is, in what ways can esport-based assessments improve inclusivity and validity in recruitment for neurodivergent applicants? The research question is guided by three main subpoints. The first, the fairness. So the question is, do esport-based assessments increase fairness for neurodivergent candidates compared to traditional methods? Second is, of course, the validity. So can these games validly assess job-relevant competencies such as leadership, adaptability, and collaboration? And the third is the design. So which features ensure accessibility, motivation, and scalability in the digital environment? And also these questions shape our design process and help align theory, user needs, and the implementation. Our methodological approach follows a clear three-phase structure. So the research, the design, and the test, each informed by academic frameworks and practical collaborations. In the research phase, we conducted an exploratory mixed method study, combining qualitative interviews and focus groups with neurodivergent candidates and HR professionals. This allows us to gather insights on both user needs and systemic challenges. So the theoretical basis integrates the self-determination theory and universal design for learning. I will explain in the next slide. Building on this, we entered the design phase using an agile Scrum-based development process. The game prototype incorporates multimodal feedback, including visual, auditory, and text-based elements to accommodate different cognitive styles. Core design elements include collaborative, time-sensitive gameplay, and observable behavior-based performance metrics. And finally, in the test phase, the prototype will undergo early stage usability testing with both neurodivergent and neurotypical participants. And the feedback from this phase is directly reintegrated into the next design cycle. So ensuring an iterative refinement grounded in lived experience and inclusive principles. The actual theoretical framework is designed by and integrates by two key models. So the first is the self-determination theory by DC and Ryan. This model emphasizes intrinsic motivation based on three needs. We have the autonomy with a feeling of control, the competence with a sense of effectiveness, and the relatedness with a meaningful social interaction, social connection. These are embedded through elements like player choice, feedback loops, and collaborative play. And the core concept of the self-determination theory is the motivation. And second, we have the universal design for learning with core concept of the accessibility. The UDL encourages flexibility in how content is presented, interacted with, and assessed, especially important for users with diverse cognitive styles. That means visual, auditory, text-based feedback, minimal sensory overload, flexible controls, and scaffolded engagement. Our expected impact is a redefinition of candidates' suitability, so shifting away from verbal self-promotion toward evidence-based performance, genuine inclusion in digital HR. Neurodivergent candidates gain access to space where they can demonstrate ability, not just survive social filters. Third is the scalability. The system can be used across industries and locations. And finally, cross-domain application. So beyond hiring, the tool could support onboarding, skill development, team building, even in educational assessments. But we also have still challenges to address. The research gaps are inclusion in digital assessments. So most digital assessment tools focus on basic accessibility, such as screen readers or keyboard navigation. Very few consider the deeper cognitive and communicative needs of neurodivergent users. Esports in selection contexts have been explored in educational settings, for example, to teach teamwork or strategic thinking. But when it comes to their use in recruitment and hiring, the literature is extremely limited. We have the validity of observable behavior. Game-based environments allow us to observe behaviors like decision-making and communication, but there's still not enough empirical data to confirm these behaviors accurately and reflect job-relevant competencies. And fourth is the guidance on inclusive design. There's a lack of concrete frameworks for how to design scalable, new inclusive assessments. And we also have, of course, the practical limitations. At first, the technical barriers. So not all candidates have access to gaming hardware or stable internet connection. The perceived legitimacy. Some HR departments may view esport-based assessment as less serious or rigorous than traditional methods. The design complexity, creating assessment that is simultaneously game-based, accessible, and job-relevant is highly complex, and a lack of standardization. So finally, there are no established benchmarks for esport-based assessments that makes it difficult to create tools that are scalable and comparable across the job roles. Oh, yeah, I was really fast. And so we like to address these research gaps and also the practical limitations in our actual project with the innovative idea into a reliable tool for inclusive hiring. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. So thank you for your time and interest. I hope I've shown you how game-based assessments can be more than just innovation and how they can be an instrument of fairness. And if you like to learn more or collaborate or participate in our pilot study, please feel free to reach out to me or to Professor Dr. Sachse. We welcome your question and your ideas, and I put here our individual LinkedIn QR codes here. So it's easy to find us. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Manuela and Jessica. There are a couple questions for you in the Twitch chat, so I'll just read them in the order they came in. The first one says, great presentation. We need to get esports into recruiting, but often the human resources department resists such changes. How can we convince human resources people?
I haven't heard.
Okay, hello to everyone. Hello to everyone. I will answer, Jessica, if it's right for you. Thank you. That's a great point. And absolutely, we just need to bring esports into recruiting. And we know that there is a resistance in the HR position, so it's very common. But I think, or we think, that there actually are three things. So there is the unfamiliarity, there is a perceived risk, and there is an uncertainty about this stuff. So we actually could speak their language, so with validity, with fairness, with evidence, and we could start a risk pilot, so a first low risk pilot. Yeah, so they get this threshold dramatically, and yeah, and so we have to see it as an addition, not as a replacement for the common assessment centers. And the fourth one is, and the final one I see, it's like we should see it as an inclusivity tool. So we should attract the applicants with these new tools and the employers as well. So
Excellent. And another question that came through in the chat, Tobias asked, is there a chance that people could game the esports-based assessment? In other words, could they circumvent the rules of it somehow to do better than we would expect them to otherwise?
if it can gamed, is it the right word? Yeah. Yeah, actually, any assessment can be gamed in theory, but I think, or we think, that esports assessment are actually among the hardest to manipulate because they measure real-time behavior. Yeah, it's not polished self-representation, and you can fake an interview, but you can't fake your decision making under pressure in a life scenario. So that's why I think it's really difficult in this first step. So of course it's a real-time behavior, and it is more difficult to fake it.
Those are all the questions I'm seeing. We do have a few minutes left, so if either of you has a final thought on this topic you want to share, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, then I start. I had a look to Jessica. I think just to point it out, my answer to the last question, I think it's really a process, and all of us will work on this process to engage the HR people and to open their eyes for different kinds of assessments with gamification. And in German, I say it never goes again, you know. So all of the young kids will play or are out playing. So let's do this together to put this in the HR mindset.
Excellent. And Jessica, any final thoughts to add?
Yeah. Here we have a lot of people who are watching. I'm still searching a university professor who will follow me with this topic through my doctorate. Yeah, because we can't find to know someone who feels interested enough in the esport and HR topics. So the combination of esport and HR topics. So if someone feels attracted to the topic, please reach out to us.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing this research. We do hope you get a chance to continue it in the future. We're going to move into our brief break now, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes with enhancing in-game communication in collegiate esports. Thank you so much, presenters.